Hi, Sabrina. Thank you so much for joining me on the World Vegan Travel Podcast.
Hi, Bridie. Nice to meet you here online.
Yeah, I'm so excited because we have actually gone to visit you 3 times at your place of work, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I don't know whether you know, Sabrina, but we're actually planning on going back again next year in December. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about what it is that you do in the animal protection area?
I am leading an animal welfare project. It's a welfare project for wild animals, and we focus on 3 species. One is bears, the second is the wolves, and the third one is the lynxes. So 3 animal species which were formerly common in Middle Europe. They were home in Middle Europe, but about a few hundred years ago, people start rotting them out. Now they're slowly coming back, which is a big success, I think, for nature conservation as well. And what we do in the park is we inform people about these 3 species, and we have about 10 hectares of forest area where we build natural enclosures. So basically, it's just a forest with a fence around it, and there we provide a new home for bears, wolves, and lynxes that have been mistreated by humans. So we have a new home there for animals that come from circuses, for animals coming out of the tourism industry in whole Europe, and they will find a lifelong place here, a sanctuary where they can rediscover their wild instincts. And that's what we want to show people, where these animals actually belong.
Yes, the actual name is called the Alternative Bear and Wolf Park. That's correct. Yes, the Alternative Bear and Wolf Park. And I think maybe that might be a little bit misleading for some people that might pass by because it's not a park at all. It's a totally legitimate sanctuary.
Our name is the Alternative Wolf and Bear Park Black Forest. That's the original name. And because we have the word park in it, people think they come and visit a zoo. Well, we have daily visitors, like in a zoo, but then we want them to understand that we don't have the animals here for marketing reasons or just to show them on a very small scale. We want people to visit us, to have a nice day here, but they really have to discover the animals in the woods, in the forest. And when the animals want to hide, they hide because they have the space, they have the bushes, they have trees, they have a little river running through, they have caves for hibernation. And we also have a special kind of how we feed the animals seasonally and naturally, so we don't have like show feedings. And of course we're dependent by visitors, but we want to that they take a message home and that they start to also overthink their own behavior towards these animals. So they're like messengers for their wild sisters and brothers as well. And yeah, so we're an animal welfare project, and there's certain things that we don't like about parks and zoos, but that's why we're called Alternative Park, because we give these animals an alternative compared to like normal zoos and animal or wildlife parks. So this name is a bit confusing at first, but since we've existed now over 10 years, I think it's 12 years now, even, and then the people got used to that name. So at some points, it's not so good to have this name because you might confuse us with a zoo or an animal park. But on the other hand, with like the short name of us is Bear Park, and with Bear Park we also, of course, reach like normal tourists in the region who drop by accidentally because they think they're going to a zoo, but then they realize this is something different than a zoo. And there's actually a lot of people who then really got convinced by this concept, and they rethink their own behavior. they start maybe a sponsorship for our project, or we also have people who help themselves in the park when we have certain things where we need help building enclosures. For example, last weekend we were building enclosures together with about 20 volunteers who came there for the weekend to help. And so this bear park family is growing bigger and bigger. We just want the animals to have a more natural place to live because we can't release them back to the wild. But yeah, it's a sad thing. Actually, I would want to release them back into the wild. But the thing for the very, very far future is that maybe at one point we're not needed anymore. So we have requests every week coming in. And from all over Europe, a lot of animals in private hands, in small zoo enclosures, in small animal park enclosures, or mistreated abroad. And we have selfie bears from Albania who found a new home here. We have old circus bears who found a new home here. And we want to tell the stories of these animals. And hopefully our society will change at one point.
I think it's quite funny how you trick people into coming into the park and then they get this big wham of education. But I really want vegans who might look at this, the name of this place when they drive by, for example, and just assume that it's some sort of zoo. But it is absolutely not. The work that you are all doing there is absolutely incredible. So you have several of these alternative bear and wolf parks. Can you describe where they are?
We have two of them. One is where I'm right now, is here in the south of Germany in the Black Forest region. So the next bigger city is Freudenstadt, and it's about 20 kilometers away. It's a very remote valley, very beautiful, with a nice waterfall, also a nice lake, which you can visit also when you're here. And we have another animal welfare project that is run by us, that is in the state of Thuringia, so it's more in the northeast of Germany. The town where it's located is called Worbis. So we have two animal welfare projects run by the same foundation.
So you were a little bit late to our call because you had a little bear emergency. So this cheeky little young bear you were recounting to me, got very excited about digging and was trying to dig out. So can you tell me a little bit about this bear's history? Like, how did he end up with you over at the Alternative Bear and Wolf Park?
Yeah, I came into this interview. Well, you don't see like the dirt on my hiking boots because I was inside the enclosure, and we had to prepare his little construction site because he was digging a hole very near the fence. I'm talking about a young bear. His name is Agonis. He will turn 7 years in January. So according to biology, he's a grown-up, but because of his history, he's still very juvenile in his behavior. He came from Albania, and in Albania, we suppose that he has been born in the wild, and that then hunters came, killed his mother, and took the little baby bear. Another organization in Albania found him where he was chained in a restaurant to a little cage, and he was there at a young age of about 4 or 5 months, and he was an attraction for tourists coming to that restaurant. So they have a real name for these kind of bears. The term restaurant bear exists in Albania. And we thought this story was so horrible when the Albanian welfare organization sent us these pictures of the little bear just being there all alone in the restaurant without his mother, very malnourished. He would have still be dependent on milk at that age. Then we decided to rescue him. Our rescue team was flying down to Albania and took him And we worked together with the agencies there, with the organizations there in Albania, that we could confiscate the bear from his previous owners with help of the police. Then he got vaccinations and papers and everything there in the capital. He was there in the zoo of Albania for a very short time until quarantine period was over and we could transfer him to Germany. And that was in the November of 2016. And that was the first time when he could actually, well, inside of an enclosure, but he could still kind of live a more natural bear life. And again, with grass under his paws and trees, and also two very, very nice friends, two siblings also from Albania, bears the same age, and he could grow up with them together. And still to this day, they're very, very close friends. So all three bears from Albania lead a happy life here. But they cause us a bit of trouble sometimes, as I've told you. So I think one young bear is as much work as 10 old bears. And since we have the young bears, we all have some more gray hair, probably. But yeah, it's just that's the best to rescue animals. And then to see their development here and to see them rediscover their wild instincts and that they can at least lead a happy life inside an enclosure, of course, but in a more spacious and more natural enclosure than they have had in their previous lives, because chained in a restaurant isn't a life for an animal. I think that's we agree on this topic. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, I think the enclosures that you've managed to create deep in the Black Forest, they're absolutely amazing. So you have bears and wolves and lynx in the park, and these are of course all predators, naturally would be predators in Europe. So what are some of the main issues? Because most of the people that listen to this podcast live in North America. So there's a lot, there's the setting, the context is very different to what it is in Europe. So what is the main issue facing these kinds of predators in the wild? They can't be re-released because maybe they don't have the behaviors, but it's also due to lack of habitat as well. Is that correct?
Well, here, not really. It's not really lack of habitat. Of course, in Germany or in Middle Europe, we're more densely populated, of course, than in areas in Canada. Of course, like we have lots of roads and streets, and this is kind of dangerous for wildlife. But at the same time, there's still hiding places for these animals here, and there's also wide forests here in between, so there is habitat for these animals, for bears, wolves, and lynxes. But the problem these species face here, these predators face here, is that they have been extinct for about 200, 300 years. People were rotting them out in former times in Europe. So when you have a country that is not used to these animals or used to living with these animals, and then they come back now because they have really good living conditions here. The forests are full of deer, and we have nature protection laws that are very good. So now slowly they're coming back in the last decades. And it's a very big success for nature conservation that they are now here, the lynxes, the wolves, but people are afraid. They don't know how to live with them. And they have to relearn living with them. And this is the fact that that is so difficult, because people often say, okay, they have once been away for a good reason. We rotted them out for a good reason. And now they're coming back, and now they're causing trouble. Now they eat livestock. Now we're afraid to go in the forest. And we all grew up with fairy tales of Red Riding Hood. And there, the wolf is the evil predator, the one who eats little children. So this is stories we've all heard. They come from Germany originally. So we grew up with these stories, and the wolf was a dangerous animal. And so now getting used to living with these animals again is a process. And I hope at one point our children or our grandchildren, it would be normal for them. Because for you in Canada, it's normal to live with bears, to live with wolves, to live with cougars, mountain lions. You have a lot of wildlife, which we don't have. But I hope at one point, wolves and lynxes and even bears will be as normal in Germany as foxes and as roe deer and as hedgehogs or squirrels.
Let's hope so. We have lots of bears where I live here in Canada. Second day that we lived here in Canada, we actually saw a wolf from our balcony window. We only saw a wolf one time, but it was just absolutely incredible. And yeah, just we have this incredible abundance of wildlife because we're not so densely populated, and I'm sure there's other reasons too, but this is not the issue in Europe, and it's very difficult to see these kinds of animals, I think, in the wild. Can you describe the Black Forest Park for me a little bit? Like, what can visitors expect when they come in, and what will their experience be like as they are going through the park?
First of all, when people plan their first visit to us, then the first thing I recommend for first-time visitors is just to take your time, because we don't present them on a small space so they can hide if they want to. So sometimes people are disappointed when they plan a visit, for example, for about an hour, and then they go on our round trip and they don't see an animal. So what we recommend is really take your time. So during summer months, starting from March until the end of October, we're open from 10 a.m. till 6 p.m. and you can stay there for the whole day. In winter times, we're only open until 4 p.m. Because then also it gets dark. But still, it's very beautiful also in winter times, and each season has its advantages and disadvantages because, in winter, most of the bears are hibernating in either natural caves, which they dig themselves, or in our artificial caves, which we prepare for them. And also, but then the wolves are more active because in summer we have lots of leaves on the bushes and everything, and so they hide very well. So in summertime they love to lie in the shade and are not very active, so then most of the people search for the wolves in summertime. So each season is good for different species. But when you take your time and then you come around and you sit on a bench and you just watch the scenery, sooner or later, an animal will appear. And then when you compare it, for example, to a zoo, you will have more natural observations, more natural behaviors these animals are showing. The one bear I was talking about, Agonis, who was digging that hole earlier we had to fix, he is one that sometimes climbs up in the trees 20, 30 meters high. And then we had lots of visitors who were just impressed that bears can actually climb that well because they've never seen it. Because when they visit a zoo, a bear can actually be happy if he has a tree in his enclosure. And then normally the tree is so secure that he can't climb up. So here they can climb up the trees. We leave all the dead wood inside so they can dig for insects. Also, the wolves and the bears and the lynxes, they live together in communities. So they keep each other busy and mentally and physically fit. So they help also each other to overcome past trauma when they have been living in small enclosures. So they rediscover their wild instincts together, and it's just great to watch. And also when you visit the first time, we definitely recommend a guided tour, because then we can tell you all the stories of our animals, what they have experienced before. Because when you go around by yourself, you see a bear. or a lynx or a wolf, but you don't know why they're here and what they have experienced. Well, we have a lot of signs also for visitors where these stories are also explained, and we also have an English guide at our cash desk, which you can borrow to also read the German signs or have the translation there. But also we love giving guided tours, because that's the best when you can ask a person who works here to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and also the stories of the animals, of course, and show pictures from their past lives. And then lots of people understand this kind of work and really also sometimes feel connected to these animals.
Yes, Sabrina, I will say that you and your team do an absolutely incredible job at explaining all of this. And it's so funny because, Seb puts aside like an hour or an hour, 90 minutes for this guided talk. And, we have a bit of a schedule to keep to, and we want to get people to lunch, and they're so interested in asking so many questions to these guides, because your English, all of your team's English is amazing, and you just explained things so well. You create such an amazing picture in our minds, like people just can't wait to hear more about what you've got to say. And like Seb's like, come on, we've got to go to the next thing. But we always include a guided visit of the alternative bear and wolf park on our Alsace trips, because it is just simply such a unique thing, and the issues faced by bears and wolves and lynx is quite different to North America. It's really a special place, and you have a little cafe there as well, so you can have lunch, and you have lots of vegan options. You always make our travelers an incredible sauerkraut and vegan sausage lunch. It's always so delicious. So what are the challenges for the organization? What are the things that are just really difficult? Because I think most people listening to this podcast understand that this kind of work is incredibly hard and challenging, but there are sometimes some different kinds of challenges. What are some of the challenges that you face with the work that you do?
Oh, a lot of challenges. One of the biggest challenges is actually surviving as a project, because the foundation who runs these two animal welfare projects in Germany, the foundation is called the Foundation for Bears, is not there's not a millionaire running this foundation, and it was founded by some normal people, animal lovers who wanted to help bears, wolves, and lynxes. So we're a project that is run only on donations. So what we need is, of course, the entrance of the visitors, and of course the sponsorship you can have for our animals, and of course donations as well. So in Corona times, and now with the war in Europe also, prices are becoming really high. So this is a survival mode right now, and so far we don't have any support by the government. We try to get support there, but we're not really a big project, so it's easy to overlook us in a way, maybe. So that's one of the big challenges, is really the finances. And of course, there's a lot of other challenges too, like to master that fine line in between animal welfare and marketing also. Of course, the listeners here in this podcast, they're interested in veganism, in animal welfare, in our ecosystem, in the well-being of animals, of course. And we are too. That's our highest good. But at the same time, I have to do a bit of marketing with our animals to have visitors and to have the support only financially. So to have like a reasonable and a good way to do that, this is also sometimes a very, very thin line to you have this balance and that not the animals suffer from this. So that is our main goal. And also, of course, when we rescue animals, there's a lot of difficulties sometimes. The last 2 bears we rescued, they were coming from Ukraine. So this was in April this year. We went into the war zone and we rescued 2 bear cubs from Ukraine. And our rescue team was risking a lot in doing this, but now they're safe and happy at our project in Vorbis. And also each time we rescue animals, we have to face the challenges at once with the agencies to get all the papers, to get all the allowances, to get animals out of bad living conditions. There's a lot of regulations with transporting animals. We have to deal with a lot of paperwork. Also, then sometimes we plan to take over an animal, and when it's a confiscation included, and then sometimes it might go wrong, so you plan for nothing because there's so many things, especially when it's across borders, that are uncertain. So this is always quite a big adventure. So, but we have such an amazing team. And this is also something that I appreciate a lot. All the people working here, they do it by their heart. Need to have this passion for the project, to work here for a long time, because the animals rule your world. And if they do something crazy at night, you have to be there at night too. So it's not like a 9-to-5 job. For all of us, it's something we do by heart. And we love to share our passion for that.
I know your ultimate goal, of course, is that there are no other wild animals of bears, lynx and wolves in captivity. That's your ultimate goal. But what's like your plan for the next 5 years?
What we're doing now and what will take us also, I think, the next 2 years at least, is that we have bought some neighboring land in 2019, so before the corona crisis and also the war started. And now we are building a new enclosure there. So we try to provide the animals more space. So we're building this new enclosure with a new quarantine station where we can care for sick animals, or where animals that we've just rescued spend the first weeks in. And this is something we're building right now. And also what we plan for the next years is to deal more with the topic of the wild living wolves and lynxes, especially. The bears are still a bit far away from our region in Germany, but there's more and more wolves and lynxes coming in this region. Wild wolves that are naturally migrate back. So there's no reintroduction with the wolves. They come by themselves, which is really, really a big success. But there's so much work to do with education, with informing people about living with them, and also with helping people who have livestock minimize the conflicts. That's why we are developing our 2 parks into competence centers that are dealing with this wildlife topic, the conflict that we have there.
Yeah, definitely. In my travels in Europe, for example, I was in Austria a few weeks ago now, and I did see quite a lot of advertising, like this shop. I think it was some sort of club, like farming rural club, and they was basically had posters up saying no wolves, because I guess they're just scared that their sheep will be attacked and all of that kind of thing.
The slogan "Wolves don't eat grass" is often written here in this area on some posters. There's a lot of people are against the wolf here, but there's also a lot of people here who romanticize the wolf and who treat them like he's a harmless pet, or like a plush toy you can cuddle. And he's definitely none of these. He's neither the devil nor the lost spirit of the wild woods. He's just a wild animal with ecological and biological needs. And at some points, we have a conflict here with our modern society. But yeah, this is the gap in between those two opinions about the wolf here in Germany is very wide. And I don't know any other wildlife conflict here in Germany about any other species that is so harshly discussed as the one about the wolf and the wolf's return.
So, of course, travelers who come on our Paris to Alsace vegan tour, which will be happening, the next one will be happening in December 2023. They will, of course, be coming to visit you. But people that are just traveling by themselves or want to learn more about you and what it is that you're doing in the Black Forest and in Thuringia, how might they learn about the work that you're doing and keep in touch with you all?
Well, they can check out our homepage. It's www.bear.de, and bear is spelled B-A-E-R. So not like the English bear. It's like the A and the E are switched. So for us, it's bear. We write it with this strange letter A with 2 dots on it. But you don't have that when you use an internet link, of course. So it's BAER.de, and this is our homepage where you can get some information. We also have a Facebook and Instagram account, so we're also there on social media. And the best thing is just to write us an email also. So our email address is Schwarzwald, which is the name for Black Forest, @bear.de. So again, the bear.de with the weird spelling. But you can also call and get information about the project there.
I was lucky enough to do a hike through the Black Forest, and it's absolutely beautiful. There's cute little German towns around the place. And of course, you can go and visit the alternative bear and wolf park, spend a day there. Really, you could easily spend a week traveling around the Black Forest and just have an incredible time. It really is so beautiful. Sabrina, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the interview. Thank you so much for getting up early that you could do the interview, even though we have the time shift in between Canada and Germany. So thanks to you also for your time. And thanks a lot for sharing our project with the vegan Canadian listeners here out there and our community there. And also thanks for sharing, like, everyone that shares what we are doing, who's telling their friends what we are doing, the more support we get, and yeah, the more animals we can help in the end. Thank you.